Hi everyone, Suzanne Ullman here, heart failure nurse, San Antonio, Texas. Originally from Seward, Nebraska, home of the Seward Blue Jays. Okay, that's Fui. He is so mad at me right now because we were sitting by each other on the front porch peacefully listening to this completely insane mockingbird across the street, and when I turned on the camera he just said, "I'm not having it. This is not in my contract." So today is the 26th, Thursday. It was garbage day here in San Antonio, here on my street. And 81,000 plus cases now nationally, over 1,000 deaths. The hospitals in New York are really struggling, and I have a soft spot for the hospitals in New York because that is where I trained to be a nurse. I am thinking about how I was in high school, and we had a big rivalry with York High School down the road about 30 miles. They were the Dukes, we called them the Ducks, and we'd go to games and bring duck collars like hunters have. They sound like kazoos. That was not a good version, but that's what you're gonna get. And my freshman year of high school, the football team lost in overtime to the York Ducks, and it was horrible, and there were tears shed. And so the next year there was, a sense of vengeance, and those Ducks came and burned a Y in our football field before the game. I mean, we're talking intense rivalry here for the Great Plains, but we did win. And duck collars, burning Ys into the football field, I'd call that generally fairly mild. There was no violence, and it was certainly before social media. But I do think about this sort of rivalry we have going between political parties and going to news stations that augment that feeling of conflict. And I've actually told lots of my patients to temper their news ingestion during this time. I say it generally for some that really have blood pressure problems, but just consider that tempering your news ingestion might be actually good for your general health, both mentally and physiologically. Extra squirts of adrenaline and cortisol are not good for the body when you're staying at home. They do help maybe when you're taking a test or running from a grizzly bear, okay? None of us is doing that right now. We're all festering in our own thoughts. So that's one thing. Temper your news. I feel that Judy Woodruff on the PBS NewsHour, it doesn't get any better than that. And if you miss it every night, watch it Friday night. Sit down and blast a little debate with David Brooks and Mark Shields. Fantastic. They're not trying to get your blood boiling. I don't like boiling blood, especially in cardiological context. Okay, the other thing I want to tell you is that I'm really happy with how many people are staying home, and I'm so sorry how hard that is. My husband and I have a different sort of work schedule than most people because he works 24 on and is off 48. So he is home a lot of the time that I'm home working, and we've had to do things like this. Number one, it's okay to put yourself in timeout. Number two, have something to do in another part of the house. A lot of people have already figured this out and know this. And number three, don't expect to get along all the time. Just because you're married or good roommates doesn't mean you're supposed to be together this much, even if you are baking incredible artisanal bread, which, by the way, ours look like hockey pucks. The last thing I wanted to tell you is that this is going to last for a while, and so even though predictions for Easter sound so great and sort of mythic, the resurrection of Jesus, the resurrection of the lockdown orders, I don't believe from a scientific place that that's going to happen. So I think we should actually sort of gird ourselves for a new Lent, and we should look ahead 40 days. There goes Fu. He's like, if you're gonna say no Easter, I'm out of here. He totally just left. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but that mockingbird has not stopped talking this whole time. She is awake pre-dawn and talks like this till after the sun goes down. I send you endurance. I send you peace. I send you breathing in for 4, holding for 2, breathing out for 6. And I send you the blessings of a self-instituted timeout.